here, your health and human sciences educator in Decatur County. Now, I've had a lot of people reach out and say, what happened to all your videos? And I will admit, there's been a small hiatus between my last Facts with Fogel video or even my last video with Jeff where it's a day in the life of. And I have good reason for that. 2020 has been an incredibly busy year for me, much like it has been for everybody. However, for me personally, there's been a lot going on. Mainly, one of the big things is that I got married. About a month ago, my now wife and I finally tied the knot after planning and replanning our wedding. And that offered up a lot of stress and a lot of worry and a lot of things that you typically probably wouldn't find in planning for the big day. Now, leading up to that, I myself was incredibly stressed to the point where I noticed there being a lot of kind of physical changes happening with me. I had some signs and symptoms that maybe it's being a man, maybe it's being stubborn, that I just kind of brushed off and thought, once the wedding's over, everything will be fine. But leading up to that day, about the weekend before the wedding, the stress got to be too much. My health really started to decline, and I really started to see some changes. And I finally broke down and said something to my fiance at that time about how I just didn't feel good. And she said, let's set up a doctor's appointment and figure out what's going on. And that doctor's appointment led to some of the biggest changes that have ever impacted my life. I went in the Monday before our wedding and told the doctor what was going on and was reassured everything would be fine. We would figure it out. That following day, went back in to review my test results. And that's the day. It was a big week. I don't want to say that it was even a day. That whole week was a great week because not only did I get to marry my best friend, I also found out that I'm a diabetic. And that was a huge hit. A lot of the stress signs and symptoms that I thought I was having finally fell into place. Now, what's interesting is that as I've kind of had conversations with people, I've gotten a lot of questions from people about what kind of signs and symptoms were you having? And you work out all the time. How do you have diabetes? And in fact, that's not exactly how diabetes works. And I thought, man, what a great opportunity to be a huge advocate to share my journey, because it's something that I want to empower people that are also new to the world of having, as I call, the sugars, and understand that you're going to be okay. Everything will be fine. Currently, there are about 34 million people in the nation, which is about 10% of the population that struggle with some form of diabetes. And there are 3 different forms of diabetes. There's type 1, there's type 2, and then there's gestational diabetes. And there's also a pre-diabetes determination, where it means that some people teeter on that. If it continues to worsen, they will be classified potentially as diabetic, or they can make behavior modifications and potentially reverse that. And there's about 88 million people in America that are pre-diabetic. Now, this is something that I talked with my wife about and said, I really think this would be a great opportunity to share and be a good advocate, because even though the diagnosis was crushing and I mourned for about a week about how my life was going to change, how people would now identify me as being a diabetic, how there's all these foods that I now am not going to be able to eat. And over the month that I've now lived the life of knowing what it means, I couldn't have been farther from the truth of all of that. It's not necessarily the things that I can't have. It just means I have a new lifestyle. I can still eat the foods that I want as long as I balance my carb ratio. So this initial video is just to let everybody know that I'm good. I am currently learning to live the life of a diabetic. And I've actually tried to shoot this video one other time, and it was closer to the diagnosis. And I was feeling really bad that day. Well, just take a look. And I don't show you that for sympathy. I show you that anybody that's struggling with the diagnosis, you're gonna be okay. I still have my good days, I still have my bad days. My sugars are far more balanced than what they were before. We're learning to count carbs, and we're learning what foods my body reacts to and how to balance physical activity now with blood sugars and all things in between. And however, it is a lifelong disease, it's something that's not going to win. And it's something that I'm promised to continue to update you on my journey, just so then for family members, for someone who is newly diagnosed, or maybe somebody that's been diagnosed their entire life, it might just be that little bit of connection to some information, to feeling like you're not alone. Because after that diagnosis, I don't know if I've ever felt more alone, because it's so crushing. But we are only brought to adversity to overcome it, and I promise you that we will overcome it. So stay tuned for some future videos from my sweet journey, and everybody, stay healthy and happy.